All right. Well,
That.
hello and welcome everybody to the 32nd episode of Pelham Handbasket. It is October. What is it? The 14th? Yeah, it's the 14th. It is a Tuesday, October the 14th, 2025. And we wanted to talk about, well, amongst other things, uh, we think that it would be awesome and it would be really a great time to talk about the latest financial kerfuffle. There's been a lot of financial news, and this is stuff that Nunya follows closer than I do. So I'll be like learning along with everybody else, I guess. Here, so take it away, Nunya. So what happened? How did this all start? What the
Well, let's
hell was Trump
go
thinking?
back and it's really it's a financial discussion, but it's more of a geopolitical discussion. It's a supply chain discussion. It's an economy discussion. It's a production discussion. So I just want to start off by going back to, I guess it was Thursday, was it? That the Chinese government announced export control measures on various rare earth minerals, right? And, for a bit of background, China basically owns the rare earth market.
Yeah,
They,
and due to their refining, not necessarily all due to the mining, correct?
both, really. They control about, I think it's like 70% of the mining and 90% of the refining.
So wait,
So,
is this mining done in China?
yep, yep,
What the hell? I had
a
no
lot
idea
of
that
it.
China had this. Okay, so wait, is it because it's rare earths and therefore the refining is the hard part?
Yes. So a bit about rare earths, and I'm sure you know this already, because every frigging MSNBC or every Fox News thing, anytime they talk about it, the first thing they say is, "Well, rare earths really aren't that rare," and they're right. Like you can find rare earths all over the globe. The problem with rare earths is finding them in concentrated enough deposits, but again, not impossible. They're all over the place. It's more so the refining of it. Um, Processing of these various elements is wildly costly. It's very toxic and damaging to the environment. That's why if you ever notice a rare earth mine or whatever, you notice there's no vegetation there. And the reason is it's because they shoot down really harsh chemicals down in order to separate out the elements. And
Mhm.
that inevitably gets down into the water tables and great things happen, right? So the Chinese have either figured out a way to mitigate all of that successfully, or they haven't, and they're going to end up with a whole lot of medical surprises in about 20 or 30 years' time in their population. One of the two, right? I'm guessing it's probably number two, but as you were. The point is, it's dirty, dirty business, and that's why countries stay away from it largely, right? Because it's number one, they don't have the market that China has. Number two, it's just really toxic and a real cluster to your environment too. And
Mhm.
I think that a lot of stuff that gets refined in China is like out of the way places. So, but I don't know enough about the refining within China. But basically, what they announced was it was a tit for tat thing because basically the US, the last time they limited rare earths, which
Mhm.
was a couple months back, if you recall, the US then backed down and they said, okay, we're going to start exporting chips and blah, blah, blah. Apparently, they've been reneging on that deal and they've been making it difficult for, uh, for
China.
example, like China to get lithography to machines and all this other stuff. So China basically said, you know what?
Ooh, that's what China wanted in return. That's a deal with the devil. I could see that why we would not want to make good on that deal. Even if somebody wanted to make good on that deal, there's just too many things pushing back on it. That's a big one. The lithography equipment is a big one.
Nah, I think China has that figured out, man.
Well, China
Uh,
makes lithography equipment, sure, but I mean, let's say, for example, the highest end stuff that they're going to
well,
reverse engineer and that they're going to improve their things. Like we know that they're going to do that.
we'll
So I
get to
think
that
that
in a little bit. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, um, where was I? Oh yeah. So basically, real toxic, shitty mess. China's
mhm.
got the market for it. Yay, go China, right? Uh, so they announced
It's
these
crazy that they
export
mine so
controls.
much of it. They not just they refine that much of it, that they mine that much of it too. I'm shocked to
There's a
hear this.
lot of it in China, and well, that's just not mine. It's also controlled. They also have other deposits in other countries that they have.
Like Africa or whatever, something.
Right, but uh, basically, they've got it's a very. My understanding is it's a very complex process too. So you need really specialized knowledge in order to do this type of stuff, and the
Mhm.
only people who really know how to do it well are the Chinese. So there's that, right? Um, so anyway, China announced these export controls, and basically that what that means is we're not banning it, but in order for us to grant you a license, we need to set up controls in place so that we're ensuring that it's going to you and not some other foreign country or some other foreign company. Your uses need to be peaceful and all that
Mhm.
stuff. So, of course, the US blew up and Trump came out, I think the next day on Friday, and he announced these 100% tariffs to come into effect on China effective November 1st.
See,
So,
okay, so we need those rare earths because, like, one of the other things that I would love to talk about is how our military industrial complex, it seems to be
yes,
finally getting its ass in gear. And holy crap, all of a sudden, they have a new voracious appetite for rare earth. I'm trying to say one thing you need it for, you can't have it. Excuse me. And the one thing you want in return is what? Lithography that you're going to reverse engineer and then completely have dominance over the AI market? No, so like you can see why this is a
it's not just that. Like China's playing a bigger game and they're playing a smarter game, frankly. And they've really cornered the market in such a way that was so ingenious. And I guess we just didn't see the may because keep in mind they've been building out these supply chains and all of this technology.
yeah.
They've been
This has
building
been a
that out.
long-term process, a
Yeah,
long-term plan.
they've been building this out for 30 years, right? And the demand for this stuff has certainly grown exponentially since then. So I guess that was number one. So the demand for all of this since, the 90s, maybe back then we didn't have our eye on it because it's still really small dollars. That's the other incredible thing. But we took our eye off it, and that allowed the Chinese to invest in it, and they've been investing in it ever since. And now they control the market. So what does that mean for us?
Mm.
Well, like I said, uh, surprisingly, it's a very small industry. Like you're not talking huge amounts of money. In 2024, for
Oh, you mean it,
example,
like the margins for rare earths is not high?
I mean, I just don't think we sell as much of it, and whatever it is we sell is maybe fairly cheap. I don't know enough about it, but whatever it is we sell in terms of rare earths to the rest of the world, you're looking at and I'm talking about like the rare earth compounds now, right? Like the raw materials. It's like a $4 to $5 billion export market. So, 5 billion to the Chinese is couch money, right? That's pocket change. So then when you break up that 5 billion and where everything's getting exported, and I'm just going by memory here, but 24% I think went to the US, and that you look at the industries, to your point, majority of that is military industrial complex. They use that shit in everything, missiles, F-35s, you name it. So it's critical, obviously, to the MIC. So that's the number one customer is the United States at 24%. Japan was number two at 60%. So right there, you've got 40% with those two countries. And what Japan uses it for is largely in their automotive industry because it's used in EV batteries and things like that. So Japan is actually a pretty big producer of rare earths as well. I think they might be the number two producer after China in the world, but Japan also imports, as I just said, 16% from China
Really?
because they
So Japan refines rare earths like that on that level, or are
believe
they
so. Yeah.
also mining them?
Well, keep in mind, 90% of the refining is still with China. So even if Japan has that other
Yeah, but
whatever
how much?
percentage,
How much
that's
of
minuscule.
the like China's rise, economic and industrial rise, that has probably eaten up most of those rare earths. Like I don't know. Well, not really because they sell that much to everybody, so it's not that can't be the case. I don't know, dude. So
So,
okay, so I guess
well,
China basically,
well,
and
finishing off my top five here. I think the number three is Europe.
you can share my screen by the way, but keep going.
Number three is Europe, which would be largely Germany in their auto manufacturing and other, industrial machines and medical devices, shit like that, that the Germans make. And then to your point about the Dutch, what do you think they need? What do you think goes in all those lithography machines, for example? Whole lot of rare earth elements. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, what China
Yeah,
has now said is we are going to make it a real pain in the ass for you guys to import any of our stuff. And you know what? When you look at the top five, only India is outside of the West, right? And the other four are, the U.S. and its vassals. So China is, I think, is playing this perfectly because in terms of dollars, you're not looking at material dollars in terms of export dollars, and the impact of it is, well, you see, it just crippled the market on Friday when Trump came out with the 100% tariff. Everything cratered, and
Mhm.
oh, sorry, sure, yeah,
So
and
so
Steve.
so when Trump did this whole tariff thing, he did this whole tariff thing basically the way that you're making it sound as a response to China's um, uh, pushing the back and also and reinforcing uh, rare earth um, reinforcing the situation from before where they were making it difficult for us to get rare earths because they had conditions that we were unwilling to meet, and in response Trump decided to tariff metals in general, rare earths. That just
No, he threatened 100% tariffs on all Chinese imports. So effective November 1st.
well then why is stuff like silver, where is there a shortage of stuff like silver then?
That's a different topic. Like silver
Really?
is, yeah, that's completely different topic. But it goes back to the whole overall theme that I think China has played a masterful job of uh, being very forward looking in a lot of these minerals and acquiring them. So they've got huge stockpiles of silver. We can talk about silver in a little bit, but what happened on Friday?
No, it makes
Basically,
sense. It's the same thing, Bill. You're right. It's connected because think about this. Silver is also heavily used in components and military applications.
yes,
So, silver, there's a shortage of silver. There's a shortage of other kinds of rare earth stuff. We're trying to kickstart the military industrial complex. Like want to get ready for this war. And I think the Chinese are forward looking enough to understand that we're asking them to fund or provide the material for the building up of this future army that we're going to try to use against them. That's the
exactly.
obsession, right?
Yep. Exactly. So, the market tanked on Friday because of what Numbnuts said. Anybody knows that it's not feasible or tenable because that was tried before and U.S. backed down before because China slapped their counter tariffs on. Same
Some
thing
kind of
will
game is happening, dude. They're playing some kind of
happen.
game here that we're not aware of all of the details. And
No,
in
I
this
don't think
game,
so.
I
No,
has to be because look, there he throws this fit like it's personal in response to China doing this, and we know that they started with positions that they both did not like that they were not going to meet. Like the Chinese were not going to give way on. Well, they want to avoid building up America's army that they're going to be used to blow up Taiwan, and the Americans want to avoid giving China, you know, the keys to building the keys to the AI revolution or whatever.
honestly, man, I think China's just done with you guys. I really do. I think they're
Well,
just like, you know what?
yeah,
It's not worth it.
yes, that's
It's
the
just
smart,
not worth it.
and it's true. But the thing is that so we're not the one. We're not just going down into a good night, right? Into a peaceful good night. And so they're trying to fight back, especially Donald Trump. Donald Trump and the people under him. I think this is their kind of obsession thing. They want to be able to get the Russians on their side. If they can't get the Russians on their side, which they couldn't really, they want to get the Europeans to deal with the Russians, but it's obviously where are they going to sell all of this? Uh, how can they sell equipment that they don't make? How can they sell Tomahawk missiles they don't make? How can they sell Tomahawk launchers they don't make? They're trying to
It's a
make them.
circular loop. Yeah,
No,
like
they're trying to make them right now. They're trying to make them. It makes sense, dude. I live here, and I see signs of military industrial buildup in places. Like I see places like at more aircraft hangars being built. More helicopters and airplanes being flown military style, like aircraft. So like there's something that has definitely shifted. Like in the last I don't know how long, but over the course of the Ukraine war, I think it got to some important people, and it gave them a kick in the pants. And now you can't just crank this up from nothing. You need these rare earths, like you need that to make this stuff. I mean, I don't know enough about it, which is why I'm glad that you can stand like explain a lot of this. But I know that much that you need a lot of this stuff for high end medical and electronics, like high end medicine and
well,
electronics. So
here's the thing. I think ultimately what it comes down to is Trump and the American administration yet again just being really arrogant and just thinking that the rest of the
you think
world,
so?
100%. That's all it comes down to is American arrogance. If it wasn't Trump, it would have been the other one. And if it wasn't,
Kamala Harris.
it was Biden before him, and it was Trump before Biden, and it's the same old shit. And America thinks that it still has power in the world, and it doesn't,
Well,
right?
it,
And you don't
I'm not
understand.
disagreeing with you, but I'm saying we're not gonna. Okay, it's not
Yeah,
irrelevant
but
what we have to say about this stuff. Still,
fine, but it kind of is though. Like you
it's
don't
getting there.
realize. Well, I think what we're going to
It's
see.
okay. It is
No,
for
let me
a large
finish.
part of the world.
Let me finish. The meeting that was held about a month ago, and you saw Modi and Xi and Putin and everybody else that was there. That was the Bretton Woods moment, and the West hasn't really let that sink in yet. But if you go 50 years down from now, that's what people will be calling it. And that was the moment. And I said this at the time, if you recall, I said this was Xi and Putin and Modi and everybody else that was there. That was them saying the world has now changed and we are now going to act accordingly. And they are. And the West doesn't know what to do with that because they're not used to having other people saying, giving their 2 cents. But that's exactly what's happening now. What she was saying in his famous speech at the SCO is this is the new world order and it starts today. You guys just haven't figured that out yet. And that's what I'm saying. Like when Trump goes and talks to Putin and says, "I'll have that end of the day," and I'm very upset. He has his little hissy fit and his temper tantrum. When he has his little temper tantrum about over what we were just talking about with China and not doing exactly what he says, this is just a man-child baby not getting his way and doesn't have his rattle, nothing more. And but what I'm saying to you is get used to it because that's the world now. You guys
Mhm.
just haven't gotten the memo yet, but that's the world now.
No, I actually largely agree with what you were saying, and I would say that kind of the way I think about it is, like the Thucydides trap, where basically if you wait as your enemy gets stronger, right? If you wait and you don't do anything, eventually your enemy will be strong enough where if there is a fight, they'll beat you. But so the trap is like, I have to attack then. I have to attack before it gets to the point where it's too late for me to maintain my sovereignty, independence, whatever. Even if I don't have ill intentions, I can't trust their intentions. And so that's the Thucydides trap. So I feel like we've passed kind of like the Thucydides trap moment in a way where it's like, no, China has already surpassed us. Like they've already done it.
Yes, China's already
It's not
done it.
like, oh, if we act now, we can stop their rise. If we act aggressively, no, they've already done it. And the only thing that we could do is, I guess, what, go nuclear? Then that's kind of a interesting. Mike
Well, and
F
you could be a
says that all the time,
responsible nation. You could be a responsible nation and say, "Listen,
dude.
we're
We're led
fucking
by
bankrupt."
narcissists. We're led by
Well,
crazy narcissists. They were led by Hunter Biden's. That
well,
this
then
is
you need to work that out internally, and you need to revolt. But you know, you're at the point now where nobody's going to lend you money anymore because they know it's going to be pissed down a black hole. Nobody's going to invest there. Nobody's going to buy T-bills. Your ability to fund any of these, armies that are so great but can't win a war and doesn't
Mhm.
have any missiles, um, you won't even be able to fund the fluffy stuff that makes everybody rich on the consulting deals. You won't have money for any of that shit. So like, and that's what's happening. You're getting fucked in the ass on both from both ends, right?
Well, okay.
Two.
So think about this: they screwed the pooch on Ukraine. Ukraine seemed like it was going well. Like Vladimir Putin has balls to just go in and take Crimea like that, annex it, and then he had massive and then like I'd say like the Donbass, yeah, that's the thing, the anti-terrorist like operation. But if the Donbass hadn't been um, resisting, they would have been gunning for Crimea the whole time anyway. Like they would have never let go of Crimea, and we know that because no matter what, they still talk about Crimea. Even recently, they still talk about Crimea, freezing things where they're at de
Right, but
facto, and then
I,
the Ukraine should get their stuff back eventually, like that. So they would
well,
have been doing that. They would have been gunning for Crimea. So Vladimir Putin had the balls to do that, and then he uh, ended up having his hand forced, and he was in the Russians and have enough. I guess the Red Army, the former Red Army, has enough uh, uh, of that Marxist materialist uh, mindset that we made fun of so much, saying like, oh, it's outdated. Why are you maintaining these old ancient tanks? And now we make fun of the Russians when they pull out these old ancient tanks, and then we're happy when we can give the Ukrainians old ancient tanks because it turns out that this is still useful, and that mindset actually was very useful for that type of war, which has evolved but not changed that much. So we screwed the pooch on
well,
Ukraine. We lost that war. We're trying to back out of there. We have to build up. We know we can't win anything. We're out of shit. We're out of missiles. We're out of artillery. We're out of stuff, right? We have to build it up. And speaking of this Tomahawk stuff, as I was bringing up before, uh, we're willing to violate treaties like the INF treaty, the like well, I guess we've already trampled that, but like, for example, the Russians were still not really violating that. And here we are, we're openly developing systems to launch Tomahawk cruise
Uh,
missiles from a,
well, it's all like the Tomahawk came out when I was like a kid, man. Like fuck, like
well, the Russians will be able to take him
it's just
down, but
it's just more irrelevant bullshit. And I guess that's my point is America is so economically hollowed out right now. Uh,
let's say they're not irrelevant. Let's say they're super relevant. The more relevant point is this one that you're making. We're so economically hollowed out. Let's say if we had to be like, oh, this is the wonder weapon, we found it, we wouldn't be able to make it. Go ahead.
well, no, you wouldn't because there's no industry there. There's no skilled, people to work any of this shit. And I go back to you're slowly it's money's going to become tighter and tighter as the years go on because the demand for dollars just won't be there and you're fucked. So like your ability to fund this phantom military and your ability to fund all these bases and your ability to fund anything
Fund the empire.
frankly is
Fund
going to
the
be
empire.
yeah, and it's all collapsing now. So and
And it
that's why China's not
all it was
afraid.
is the dollar.
Nobody's afraid of America anymore. Even Venezuela is not afraid of America. Come on, like you can't. You couldn't even beat the Houthis. Like this is what people see.
I was reading John Helmer's recent piece, and I don't think the Venezuelans would be willing to suffer what the Houthis suffered. The Houthis suffered famine and the greatest humanitarian catastrophe until Gaza happened for decades. So I don't think the Venezuelans would do that. But the thing about the Venezuelans is they
Good
have
luck to you then.
a leadership that actually does provide for them. But here's the thing: I think Venezuela. I don't know. I was reading John Helmer from Dances with Bears. I was reading one of his recent pieces a couple of days ago or yesterday. I don't know, and it was like talking about how in his opinion, what he thinks, the whispers that he's hearing is the Venezuelans are actually trying to do everything they can to stop the Americans from escalating with them further. They're trying to open up their markets to Chevron and to American oil companies, giving them massive shares in their companies, like literally giving them massive shares of their state companies. Something like this is
Yeah,
what he was saying.
yeah. I don't believe any of it. Um, and nothing officially came out of any Venezuelan news that said anything like that. So yeah, whatever Helmer says, great. Um, where was I with the? Oh yeah, the market, the earth's falling out of her. Oh yeah, basically, Trump then had to walk all that back, and then yesterday the market largely rebound. I think it was up 600, a little over 600 points. I didn't even look at what the market did today. No idea. But I guess the point with all of this is in terms of a trade war, the United States is not going to beat China. China's got it all. And,
That's what
you
I'm
know,
saying. We've
they've
already
got,
been surpassed. It's already
yeah,
happened.
they've got
The
the
whole
leverage.
structure balanced on two things. It was the dollar, the petrodollar, the petro debt dollar, like because that dollar was also being held up by debt. Petrodollar and debt, right? That and then the myth of American military supremacy. Those two
Mhm.
things are crumbling. And I don't
Yeah.
know, those two legs are showing to themselves to be not what they were. And yeah, I think it's not even that people are willing to defy more. It's just that this administration has made so many blunders. This isn't the first time Trump stuck his foot in his mouth and screwed it up for all of America. Thank you very much. Like,
Yeah, but this predates Trump too, right? Like a lot of these problems have been years and years in the making, right? So you can't just blame Trump. You got to blame Biden, Obama, Bush, fucking Clinton.
yeah, but the overreaction. Okay, so the way that you're reacting to finally realizing this situation is making things much worse, right? this is, I don't know what kind of deal, New York real estate deals you made, Trump, but I mean, really, this is how you would be. You just throw a bitch fit when you don't get your way right away, when you know that you're trying to screw the other side, and you know the other side is shrewd and they're trying to screw you too. And
Well,
you guys both know that.
I go back to it's a lot of American hubris and do as you're told. And now you have countries like, why do you think they've been wanting to blow up Iran for the last, 40 years? It's because they stood up to them, right? That's it. And same thing with Russia slash Soviet Union.
It's more than
Same thing
that.
with China.
Iran
No,
was
it's not.
our Iran was
No,
very
it's not.
important. It's important for
But
Israel
that's
too.
true.
But
No, it
Israel is
wasn't.
obsessed with Iran.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's at
you
least
know,
one more reason.
the U.S. had no real interest in Iran. It's just they were defied. That was it. They kicked their puppet out. That was it. And same thing with Cuba, right? You've got all these countries that stick up for them. They make their life, U.S. will make their lives a living hell. The only difference now is you can push around a Cuba. You can push around an Iran. You can't push around China. You can't push around Russia. And they're finding that out now, and they
And
don't
you,
like it.
you can't push around
And
India, as they
yeah,
found
it's
out.
too late. It's too late.
But
It's
see, this is
too
what I
late
mean.
to,
Trump put his foot in his mouth. The reality with India would have been the same anyway, but you didn't have to offend everybody and make them. And now look at India is like nothing to lose. Now they're like, what is that saying? Power is only power until you use it, then it becomes force, right? Like power is like more psychological thing. The threat of using it is scary, right? Then when you see
here,
that, oh, the punishment is not worth anything and you actually can't do shit about this. It's better to
here,
for go ahead.
I'll finish your thought.
Well, I just it's better for you to be able to recognize the reality that you're living in and make decisions based off of that. And with this, we
Yeah.
talked about this last time and the time before. The people that Trump is surrounded by, he's surrounded by morons.
Well, I also think if you look at
Like
what
Keith
the
Kellogg.
U.S. what does the U.S. actually export to the world? Do you know what I mean? And
We
how
used to
much of it is
export
really
cars. Now
U.S.?
China's exporting cars. We used to
Yeah.
export technology. Now China is exporting technology products like in solutions. So
Yeah.
weapons, gas. That's funny. We're like it's like what we always make fun of Russia for being a gas
Yeah.
station with nukes. Maybe we could be that. Ooh,
Well, it's
that's
funny. It's funny. One of the
painful.
industries where the U.S. actually did have a bit of a competitive advantage was in agriculture, and you've completely fucked that. So,
Really, I think we still have agriculture, and I think we still have some, and we can still pull it out. I don't care what. I know you don't believe it. I think we can still pull it out with high tech processors. I think it can still happen. Maybe we can't because that's something that can be the work on that can be done independent of massive scale for a time being. So I think that there's a chance that Intel can regain um, market leadership, not market leadership maybe, but like a performance leadership in their class.
yeah, I don't think so. The Chinese have already engineered that away anyway. Like the actual size of these chips moving forward are not going to matter as much because apparently they've built some software that, kind of gets around that. I was watching something about it the other day.
Yeah, can you share
Yeah,
that with me? That's really
yeah.
interesting. I casually
No,
nerd
man,
out about computer
you,
stuff.
you you used to have some sort of advantage in certain agricultural products like soybeans, as we mentioned before, and now that market's done,
Corn, we grow corn and wheat.
right? Okay, but who
You
do you
can
sell
feed.
them to?
Well, so how bad is it going to be if you could still feed the population? You could still provide them with, you know, football and porn and anime or video games, whatever it is that people distract themselves with. You just make sure that they eat and they distracted themselves with something. And I think that they could hold over, especially in America, we could hold over longer. Especially if we can continue to harness Europe as a vassal, sell them our stuff as we develop our military industrial complex at the detriment of theirs, should be obvious, right? If they're funding our
Yeah.
military industrial complex, they're not funding their own.
But none of that's going to happen, right? So, like, Europe's vassalage is going to go by the wayside. The EU is going to go by the wayside. So you're not going to have vassals over there. Why would they be? Why would anybody want to be a vassal to the United States anymore?
Yeah, dude, it's funny because you've
Right?
always said that, and the more I look at it, the more it's like, in a way, you're right. You can see the EU slowly breaking apart.
Yep.
Like I'm sure there's some stuff they could do. They could still pull it out, maybe. I don't know, but right now, the way it's being run, the things that they're doing, the results that they're getting, people are hoping for the Orbans. And yeah, we get you know, Moldovan election. There was like more news about the Moldovan elections where apparently Moldovan elections, as we guessed, were sketchy as fuck. And the Moldovans were not allowing election observers. They were like telling election observers that they could not observe the election and like keeping them detained and stuff. It's crazy. So but when we get a success in Moldova, like there's where did we just recently drop the ball in Europe?
Everywhere. Back to this topic, though, it's like if you don't have rare earths and these various magnets that they do produce, you don't have
You're not going to
industry
get
in a
him
lot
from Italy. You're not going to get him from France. You're not going to yet. You got.
Well,
You're going to get him from America. I feel like. Okay, that's what they have to do. That's what they have to be doing. That's the plan that they have. That Donald Trump has to be having is. This is the overreaction. This is the knee-jerk overreaction. This is why I still think that. No, I think this isn't a way overreaction. I think a different person, different president would have had a little more balanced approach. But it's like, okay, that's it. Overnight, let's start building up our freaking rare earths capacity. Start building up those supply chains from scratch, baby. Like that's kind of like the attitude. It feels almost like.
Right.
And that's why
that's what the government should be doing, because it's a very, like I said, it's a long, complex process to get all of those supply chains and get the technology and get the know-how and pass all the environmental stuff and yada, yada, yada. Like you're looking at a long time, right? And this is why, stupid head and the idiots that are, I can't believe that the US government knows this little about
Dude,
their
that
own.
sounds like an epic band name for like a punk rock band, Stupid Head and the Idiots.
But I don't know. I don't understand why the US doesn't understand where their pain points are in the world, and where their big risks are. Like somebody's clearly dropped the ball. Like, how did they not expect China to react exactly the way China did? China reacted as rationally as you'd expect them to. So, like, this is just, again, I go back to hubris. It's China would never do that to us. End of story. End of thinking. End of thinking right there. No, China wouldn't do that. Move on.
No, I don't think so. I think that it's like they know they're between a rock and a hard place. And Donald Trump is narcissistic enough, narcissists thinking black and white thinking. They thinking like, I'm really cool or I'm a piece of shit. Like they have no between. And so that's why they make an overcompensation to be the shit and really cool all the time, because it comes partly from that psychological limitation. So Donald Trump feels rejected by China. It's like, how could you do this to me? All he heard was a no. He didn't hear anything else. He heard no. And no means F you, Trump. You're a piece of crap. Everything that anybody ever said about you was true. You are a big fake. You're a horrible real estate agent. You're not a real billionaire. Every possible worst thing that Donald Trump might secretly sometimes fear about himself. Boom. That's what that brings up. That's where his knee-jerk overreaction is just like, oh, yeah, well, take this. But I mean, this isn't a blow against China. This is a blow against the military industrial complex that's trying to rebuild their I mean, that China's. You were saying that China's conditions are they don't want us to be using those on that, but yeah.
They need to be approved. So it's up to the Chinese government to determine whether or not they want to sell them to Lockheed Martin, for example, right? Um, and maybe they would,
Yeah, look at this.
right?
If
Could very
China's
well.
like, hey, if you want to make washing machines, no problem. If you want to make specialized magnets, ooh, there might be limitations on that. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
So they put these rules in place, and as that article just said, somewhere in the article I noticed, it's the
Mhm.
exact same rules that the U.S. has in place for semiconductors. So basically, China is just playing the U.S. at its own game, and the U.S. doesn't like it. End of story. So, like I go back to Bretton Woods 2.0, baby. You just haven't gotten the memo yet. Like the world has moved on, and the world keeps moving on more and more every day. And, you know, America's being left out of it all, frankly.
Okay, well, let's move on to something that I thought was the same subject, but you're saying it's actually not totally related, which is I
Well,
have
they're
this hope.
minerals.
I have this hope, yes, that Yahoo Finance will freaking load. What is going on? Load, god damn it. Oh, it's probably because my laptop is not plugged in, so it's on like some battery saver mode bullshit, so everything is running like crap. Okay. Um Here we go. Bloomberg silver. Okay, Jesus, come on, dude. Oh, I'm so pissed off. I need to put an ad blocker. Can I put an ad blocker on this particular browser? Concerns about no. This is not where it starts. Okay, here's the story. Okay, we apologize, people, but here at Hell in a Handbasket, sometimes there's hell in a handbasket going on, on my personal lives. So there you go. Silver hit the highest in decades as a historic short squeeze in London intensified with a fresh surge in prices, adding urgency to a worldwide hunt for bullion that could alleviate the mismatch between demand and supply. Okay, so translation, silver is costing a lot of money because there's turns out that it's needed worldwide right now, and there's more supply than demand. Spot silver climbed as
There's
much
more
as
demand than supply.
sorry, yeah. Spot silver climbed as much as 3.9% above $52 an ounce, exceeding last week's peak, while gold surged to a fresh record above $4,115 per what do they call these things? Whatever. Platinum and palladium also jumped amid signs that market stresses caused by surging investor demand are starting to spread to other precious metals. Okay, what is this? Precious metals soar. So there you go. You guys can see a February 2025. This chart is very impressive. I do not know what it's relative to, so it's probably it just looks really impressive on this demonstration. Let's see. Concerns about a lack of liquidity in London drove silver closer to $52.50 record from 1980, set on a now defunct contract on the Chicago Board of Trade. Benchmark prices in London have soared to near unprecedented levels over New York, prompting some traders to book cargo slots on transatlantic flights for silver bars. An expensive mode of transport, typically reserved for gold, to profit off higher prices in London. The premium was about $1.40 an ounce on Monday. So silver price, are they going to tell us why? Let's see. Looking to creating eye-watering costs, bullion. So, I mean, lease rates for gold and palladium are also on the rise. So silver market is less liquid and roughly 9 times smaller than gold's, amplifying price moves. Goldman Sachs Group Incorporated analysts wrote in a note, without a central bank bid to anchor silver prices, even a temporary pullback in investment flows could trigger a disproportionate correction. It would also unwind the London tightness that drove much of the recent rally. So I guess they're not really telling. Okay, so man, I wish I found where I had other stories about this that were more relevant. But basically, so what I was reading earlier, and is that the reason why we're seeing these crazy ass silver prices is because there's a huge demand for them for electronics components that require silver for electronic conduction and stuff like this. So what does this tell me? This tells me that this rise, and that gold is used for that too, right? So this rise in these metals, and I was hearing also that tungsten went, the price of tungsten went through the roof. So price of all of these kinds of metals, and that's not even like the rare earths, right? These are just precious metals, have all gone through the roof. Why? Because they're trying to do something. They're finally trying to get their act together. They're trying to build their shit up. And you hear this news about Chevy apparently not being slowly approaching bankruptcy.
Well, yeah, I mean, doesn't surprise me. Nobody's buying the curse, so it's
Well, the thing is,
kind of goes back and forth.
I guess they don't even make their own cars anymore. Now they're like, China is making their cars, and they're like, just using Chevy's brand, and they're like selling them worldwide as Chevys. And like,
Yeah.
I guess, like, it's something that you always say, and I hate to admit that you're probably right. I hate to admit this because I don't want to see this future, but EVs, like, they dropped the ball on EVs. So China took over that. All their top EVs were being not just manufactured in China, but also researched and developed in China.
Mm-hmm.
So what the hell did you guys do? You guys just gave them the keys to the kingdom, as well as, the official mark to be able to use that shit. And then, like, I didn't even realize this, but like, for the last couple of years, like, Cadillacs and definitely Buicks in America have all been made in China. That, I mean,
Yeah.
even you go to like Japanese companies and they'll make cars in America, like, and meanwhile American companies, because it's like they become so financialized. See, they lost track of everything. Everybody became financialized. Everybody was like trying to cut costs. And like, now this is the result. And you know what? Good. They deserve it. Like, screw you for doing that. Even you shouldn't have even been outsourcing all of those jobs everywhere else. Just like, but whatever. You definitely should not have been outsourcing them to China, like that. Definitely. So you know what? Screw you guys. And I mean, it's we're going to be the ones that feel the backlash of that by and large. But like, kind of the same attitude I have about us losing the war in Ukraine is just like, yeah, what did you guys think would happen? You deserve this. Like, you guys charged us how much money for the military industrial complex that only now you're like, oh shit, we need rare earths. And actually, we don't even have a supply chain about the rare earths. Remember when Jake Sullivan, like, was it 3 years ago now, was just like, yeah, guys, we have a supply chain problem? Yeah, I guess that's what they were talking about. Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I think China is just a very smart, capable country, always has been, and they're showing it, right? And, when they put money and minds to a problem, they solve it. And I mean, at this point, the Chinese are so far ahead on EVs that it'd be tough to catch up. I mean, we haven't even figured out the lithium batteries yet, and they're already starting to produce sodium, right? Uh, it's
Yeah,
like,
they're generationally ahead of us on some
oh,
of these key things.
but back to silver, because I did want to talk about it.
Okay.
All right, sit back and I'll tell you a story of silver. Where do I start? Well, this is silver, right? He's my stormtrooper, one of many. It's 1 ounce of silver. So silver and gold have both been on a tear in recent years, the last several, like say 3, really. They've
Yeah.
both shot up quite a bit for different reasons. So gold is a
Gold's been
hedge
climbing
against,
like steadily, like constantly
yeah,
and steadily. And they were always saying it's undervalued.
yeah.
And
Gold is a hedge against inflation. So they've been countries around the world have been companies and everything else. They've started acquiring a boatload of gold, and they have been for the last, like China's been
Right?
accumulating
China
gold
and Russia and India,
for about
especially.
15 years.
Wait,
So
wasn't there some BS about India's gold in Britain or something like this?
uh, as I
Okay,
said, sit back and listen to my tale.
okay.
Um, Geez, where was I? Oh, yeah. So basically, you've got all these countries who see that the end is near for the US dollar. It's pretty clear that, they want to move back to a gold back system because gold and silver have historically always been the units of money and go back 5,000 years, Um, Now,
Well, they've always
silver,
been a way to maintain value, to retain value when money
yeah,
was
all
sketch
right.
or whatever.
Now, uh, silver is also a bit different from gold in that it's also used in a ton of various industrial
Industrial,
products.
yeah.
So
And
basically,
apparently
all
chemical stuff too. I didn't realize, but chemical stuff, industrial stuff, and of course electronics, computer
so
components.
so basically, you've got silver. It's put in all of our computers, electronics. It's used by the weapons industry really heavily.
Missiles.
Basically, anything that you need a really good conductor for, that's where silver comes in because silver is like the best conductor you can get. Now, the problem, and I'm going to talk about
Is
silver
it?
on
I
both.
thought gold was the
Yes,
best.
no, no, not even close.
Okay.
Sit back, let me tell my story.
Yeah,
So,
I'm listening. I'm listening.
yes, but don't interrupt me as I'm telling my story. So, I'll talk about for like the demand and supply, right? So, first, the demand. The demand for silver has been growing and growing and growing for decades now because everything's becoming electronic, right? And that's just the way it's going. EV batteries require silver, electronics, everything nowadays requires silver. So the demand for silver has been growing exponentially with this technology as well as a lot of these central banks around, as I said, for the last several years, they've been acquiring boatloads of silver for strategic stockpiles as well, and as a hedge against inflation, because basically any country outside of the Western influence, they've all been acquiring gold while we've been sitting back, still buying U.S. Treasuries as the value of the dollar declines. So how smart are we, right? So on the demand side, you've got much greater demand for because of the industrial uses, and then you've got greater central government demand across the world. That's demand side. Now you got supply side. Uh, we don't mine enough uh, silver, and we haven't for years, right? Years we've been running deficits on silver because number one, there's not a whole lot of pure silver mines out there. And there hasn't been a big deposit of silver found in a long, long time, right?
Really?
So, yeah, the majority of the silver that we do mine are actually byproducts of other mining operations. So mostly like zinc and nickel. So as a result of those mines, sometimes they'll find like silver and but it's not the main crux of that mine operation. So the reason for the supply, nobody invests in silver mines because number one, as I said, they're often just, when you're doing your business case on your zinc mine, whatever cellular you find is just a bonus. You know what I mean? It's not the main core of your investment. And also, not only are there not a lot of mines being invested in because of that, um, also on the supply side, the other thing about silver is we don't recycle it. So gold is valuable enough. You'll go and you'll recycle gold. But silver, because it is so cheap compared to gold, for example. Like we're talking $52 an ounce that it hit on
Yeah,
Friday.
it's not worth it
And
to really
it's used in,
scrounge for it.
yeah, it's used in such minute quantities in like a calculator or whatever the fuck, that it's just there hasn't been a cost beneficial way to figure out how to recycle silver, largely. So on the supply side, you don't have any recycling going on, and you also have no mining going on because of it. Um, so that's a problem. So basically, if it all leads to higher price. So now ask yourself, why why is only the price like starting to shoot up now? Why is it has it been somewhat stable over the years, right?
Why?
Well, glad you asked that, Bradley. Because well, let me back up for a second. The LBMA that it referenced in the article there, the LBMA stands for the what is it? The London Bullion Metals Association, I think.
Okay.
And basically, it's the London Metals Exchange. Okay. So the London Metals Exchange was set up after the 87 crash. And the idea was you're going to have this um, metals exchange in London. Why London? I couldn't tell you. Uh, and it's going to be monitored and governed by the Bank of England. So, like, of course, they fucked that up. Like, you're going to let the Bank of England, like the printing press itself, you're going to let them be your governance mechanism. So, of course, over the years, what has happened is they started selling all of these like futures and other derivative instruments. Okay. So you can buy a futures contract on the LBMA or the COMEX in the US, by the way, too. So basically, a futures contract is a promissory note, and you say to yourself, I'm buying this promissory note for an ounce of silver in the future. Okay.
Hmm.
And the idea is I've got this promissory note, and instead of me taking delivery of that ounce of silver, it's going to sit in some vault in the Bank of England, right? And I'm just as happy because as long as I own the asset, I'm good, right? So they've been blowing out this whole futures promissory note market for the last 40 fucking years. Okay. So there's all sorts of promissory notes out there. The problem is going back to why hasn't the price of silver been accelerating with the demand? And the reason is the big banks have been suppressing the price. Okay. Is
Silver
they
and
don't
gold, then too, right? Both of them.
go both, but more
Okay.
so silver than gold because silver's a
Huh.
lot cheaper. So they hold a lot more of it. So basically, how do you suppress the price? Basically, you basically short futures. There's all sorts of ways to do it, but also when somebody does quote stand for delivery, when they buy at the spot price and they say, "Yes, I want my ounce of gold delivered to this address or whatever," eventually you have to deliver that gold. So what's or gold, that's silver. So what's been happening
Yeah.
at these big banks? Like the JP Morgans, the Credit Suisses of the world, their silver inventories have been declining now for decades. Okay. So they don't have the ability to manipulate the market like they once had. Okay. What happened on Friday was basically the LBMA ran out of silver. it's they absolutely ran out of silver because there were more spot buyers than there were actual physical ounces, and the market lost their shit. Now, if you look at the and the market's broken, right? Like if you were to look at that $52, that's the future price. That's the promissory price. The spot price of silver is actually a lot more. It got up to a point Oh, sorry, the other way. The 53 was the spot price, but the futures price was only like $50. Now you would think if things are going, inflation being what it is, you should expect to see the futures price be more than your current price, right? But it's
Mhm.
inverse. And the reason is people are willing to pay $3 more for the spot price to get
To
physical
get it.
ownership of it
Uh-huh.
because they don't trust the market anymore. They don't trust that the promissory note, and that's what happened. So
Wait,
people
wait.
started calling
It's not
people.
just people that own bullion, though, right? It's also industry that needed it, I think. It has to be that too.
Yes, yes,
Definitely.
that too. So everybody now, whether it be central banks, industry, as you said,
Uh-huh. This is
institutional
what they mean
investors,
when they
ind-
say, oh, there's a supply and demand shortage. This is what
yeah.
they mean.
What happened on Friday was everybody went ape shit and started ordering spot, and nobody wants futures. So the price started skyrocketing, and it's only going to continue because basically, you ever heard the term the run on the banks, and you know how a run on the banks works? This is like a run on silver now,
Run on
right?
silver. See, this is why every single article that I've looked at about this keeps saying, don't overreact. It's a small market. It's very volatile. Now's not a good time to overreact to this silver shortage kind of thing. But I mean, if they've been shorted on silver for this long, for years now.
Let me just put it this way. In the LBMA right now, there are not millions, billions of outstanding requests, billions, okay, of ounces. There
Wow.
was there was uh, there was hope over the weekend that the LBMA would get bailed out by New York at the COMEX, and the COMEX would be able to ship them some of their
Silver.
inventory in order to help out with liquidity. But no, whoever's thinking that doesn't understand that COMEX only has, I think COMEX right now, I think they've got like 400 million ounces or something I read somewhere. So the likelihood that they're going to be able to help out, LBMA is very unlikely. And why would they? So no, man, I think actually what I think might have happened is there was a lot of ordering spot from Comex over from the LBMA. I think a lot of that happened
Oh,
Friday. So
okay.
LBMA, well, as a market, they're done. Yeah.
Okay, no, okay. So what does this mean? What does this spell out for them then? Does this just mean that they are going to be on the hook for massive amounts of silver that's about to be a lot more expensive than it was when they sold it? So now they're going to have to come up with,
I think
well, I don't know what, millions of
I
dollars?
I think the big banks, and I don't remember the banks offhand, but they were like 12 big banks globally that all kind of colluded on the price of silver and gold and platinum and copper and every other fucking thing, right? But it was the ones you'd expect: Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, J.P. Morgan, those guys, right?
Mhm.
Um, I think they're going to try to manage it with their inventories for as long as they can. But like I said, when you're talking about billions of outstanding, requests, and that's only going to grow, and you don't have any supply.
But I mean, even right now, look, in India, silver demand has surged so sharply that some dealers selling through Amazon are reportedly defaulting on deliveries, according to local reports. Headlines of the Indian headlines. The world needs more Indian media. Headlines across Indian business media read, "Not even a sliver of silver available." Win. This is an epic win. Dealers accepting payment, failing to deliver. Shortage has split the market between paper silver contracts and physical silver availability, creating what traders call a two-tier silver market. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly what you're talking about.
that's exactly what I was talking about, the promissory notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were reading earlier. It's becoming so profitable now that they're actually shipping it over from by boat from the
No, not
UK.
even by boat, by airplane. They're
Oh,
shipping
airplane
it.
is it?
Imagine silver is not lightweight metal. That means you can make up on it right now, the difference in price right now. It's worth not waiting. It's worth getting that right now in hand and giving it. Or it's absolutely necessary. It's absolutely, absolutely needed. It's for some kind of must have industrial national security, something company's future depends on it, BS or something. Anyway.
Well,
So
eventually on gold, which is also being suppressed, and silver, there's going to be a come to Jesus moment whereby it's going to have to be repriced, right?
yeah.
And and
But
once we
hasn't that
have
already
that
happened with gold in a way? Like I feel like gold has climbed so rapidly. If it continues to climb like this for another, I don't know, 3 years, they'll basically have effectively repriced gold.
well, one of the big rumors now is that the US Treasury is going to reprice gold because that'll net them about $1 billion to the
Oh,
Treasury
you're gonna
because they
do
haven't
that.
repriced. Yeah, they haven't repriced gold since the 70s. So, if they reprice gold,
So
they'll get an extra $1 billion or trillion. Sorry, not billion, trillion. Um, but that would effectively be the end of the dollar when the U.S. government starts to reprice gold because what that
yeah,
indicates to
well, this is why they're trying to move to this digital currency thing. What is the treasury currency, whatever it is, so that they could be
CBDCs.
doing the CBDC, but the idea for the CBDC is what is it going to be backed by? And it's going to be backed by
Gold.
treasuries. Well, no,
No,
treasuries.
it won't be.
Well, this is the
Uh,
idea. This is what they want because then they could manipulate the price of whatever it is that they want, and they have fine grained control. And that's too much of a temptation to pass up.
yeah, I don't know how that would work. But I think I've always said this, the best thing for the US, just default on your debt and call it a day. Declare bankruptcy, default on the debt and call it a day. And then start fresh. That's the best thing that can happen to you. But,
Yeah, I
what
get
do I
that.
know?
Well, I think that that's what I don't know enough about that kind of stuff to opine on that, but that's what Michael Hudson always says.
Well, I tell
So
you, like
also,
reading
but
about when you read about precious metals,
mm-hmm.
uh, it's actually pretty fascinating because really, if you control those metals, those resources, you can control a lot of things. And that's what China has done masterfully because
Yeah, you got
they've
them by
got the
the
rare
ball.
earths,
They've got us by
got
the
them by
ball.
the
See,
ball.
this is why Donald Trump is throwing this fit back to this whole
Well,
thing because he's like,
not only not only that, some estimates because the Chinese have been buying gold, for example, they've been buying gold for decades,
yeah,
and we have no
I'd
earthly
heard about
idea
it
how
for
much
decades.
gold.
I'd heard about it for at least a decade. I'd heard
Yeah.
about it.
And we have no clue how much gold China has because number one, as a country, they produce a ton of gold in and of themselves, and none of that leaves China. Number two, like they'll go and they'll buy a mine like dirt, and they'll be like it's called doré, and basically it's just unrefined like dirt that they'll
Dirtier
just throw
than
down.
okay,
And
and they
and
basically would
China,
sift through it.
I don't know. I guess so, but China's like, yeah, ship it over. We'll buy it off you. Like, but we don't want you to take it out of you. Like, just take the whole friggin' thing. We'll take it all. Like, they do that shit. And so we have no clue how much gold they have, but eventually gold gets repriced, right? And it'll be true price discovery, gold, silver, copper, you name it. Eventually the game will be up. Like the banks won't be able to do it anymore. And once that happens and you start to see like you're just going to see demand every day, no supply whatsoever. Nobody suppressing the price down, right? Once that happens, well, China's got trillions of dollars in gold, trillions, right? That they're going to benefit from it just as well as anybody else who holds gold, right? Unfortunately for us Western countries, we don't hold a whole lot of gold because it's counter to the whole idea that the US dollar is the reserve currency. You
Yeah.
can't be an ally of the US and necessarily then go buy a bunch of gold. Do you know what I mean?
See, but
Uh,
meanwhile, at the same time, here we are getting eroded from the petrodollar is getting eroded with the Saudis willing to deal with Chinese currency, right?
we're
That
all fucked, man.
already alone itself already is a game changer. And if we like, I'm not 100% sure what's going on in Venezuela yet, but if we can get our hands on Venezuela's stuff and Saudi Arabia's stuff, then even if we can't really necessarily control the market, we can have our own, like we could pull up the Iron Curtain, like we did before, and have our own mini economy, I guess, like an isolated economy. Like, I don't know. I know I brought that up
Sounds
before.
like the Soviet Union, but
I mean, it's like going to be the United States, going to be the free world. Going to be United States, it's European vassals, Canada, like all those countries, and who else?
a free world. I love that. Uh, no, I think you're I think you're grasping at straws here, bud. I think all of these countries are going to have to fight for their own best interests very shortly, including Canada. Like things will get
It's
really
getting so
bad.
screwed. What are you going to do? Come defend the Canadian borders with your like moose police?
No, we don't have to. Like, if America wants to invade Canada, there's nothing we can do to stop it. But it would
Exactly.
just show the rest of the world what you are, right? And if you think
Right.
that
Where haven't
country
we been doing? Hasn't the rest of the world seen what we are by now?
right, and
I'm joking.
you're
I'm joking.
now you're seeing the result of it because the world is moving away from you. You don't see that, right? That's happening
I
in
mean,
real
I do.
time.
This is why our show is called Hell in a Handbasket. We're watching the
Right.
Western world go to Hell in a Handbasket. So I definitely,
So
I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
I
I think
guess what
that,
I'm
yeah, the
saying is
Russians and the Chinese both had this long-term plan, especially the Russians and the Chinese. I think now we could see. Because, I mean, really, the BRICS, the big two players in BRICS were Russia and China for the longest time. And even still right now, they still kind of like really are. So, uh,
well, it's nobody's afraid of America anymore. That's the thing, right? Like we're just nobody is,
you're putting
and
it, I
that's
think you're putting it in
why.
the wrong way. It's not even that anybody's afraid of America. It's that it's useful to be part of the biggest, baddest block in town, the biggest, baddest gang in town. And if you seem weak, if you've been punched in the nose and your best days are behind you, then or people are like, listen, in my neighborhood, I live next to China and India. I better make a deal with them. What happens if I get into some kind of dispute? You guys can't bail me out. Were you guys going to support me as much as you supported Ukraine? You would never be able to do that, and Ukraine still lost the war, and you still didn't bail them out. So those countries are forced. It forces their hand to have to do that out of just a uh, share real world calculation of a threat, managing your threats. Having an economy of enemies.
But that's the other part of the equation. I think people are realizing that the only real threat is America, and they don't want to be part of it anymore. Like they just like people don't want to
It's
like
our elites.
West.
Don't say America, dude. We're more
Well,
screwed than most of the world. They screw
look
us over
at
here too.
Spain. Spain doesn't want to have anything to do with increased NATO spending. That's only going to continue. You're going to see Japan break away from the US's sphere of influence. You're going to see South Korea move away from the sphere of influence. That's going to happen very soon. Like I'd say within the next 10 years, no question about because it's a matter of economics and it's a matter of geography, right? It makes no sense for South Korea and China and Japan to be at odds with one another and not trading with not one another. They don't have to be friends, but they will trade together moving forward. And I think that South Korea and absolutely Japan is like, you fuckers, we've done everything that you fucking asked us to do, and now you're doing this to us.
Now
Japan's done.
you're gonna screw us this hard. I don't know. I
And
think
that's what
Japan might be not as screwed as Europe. I think what's screwed, number one, the most screwed is Europe. It's the EU. It's Germany. It's
no, Bradley. You're seeing protests going on in Japan now. The Japanese culture is not one of protest, but that's starting to pick up. You're starting to see, and I keep saying this, you mess with somebody's standard of living, they'll start to do crazy things. And the Japanese have a long way to fall, right? Because they've got a pretty high standard of living, and it's all relative. If you've got shit and you fall down to shittier,
Mhm.
pretty shitty before. So, but if you're doing well and you start to lose 20% of your purchasing power, for example, like you and I have in the last several years, or so on, no, you start to do some crazy shit, man.
You feel it.
And and then your government will feel it. So no, I think it's just a matter of time before everything just breaks up, because it'll have to, because it'll be, everything will be more, well, what it's always historically been, which is trading with one another based on comparative advantage, right? What do I need from this country, and I'll buy it
We
from
don't
this
want to
country.
play that game, Nanya. We don't want to play that. We think that we're above that. We don't have to play the
Well,
comparative advantage game. We can print dollars, and you can
but
line up.
we
And
can't though. That's my point. That the printing machine is
well,
busted, and
yeah.
it doesn't
Well,
work
it's
anymore.
become the printing machine has been. Let's say the emperor's clothes have been exposed for their lack of existence. For their lack of being placed around the emperor's body, right? And when it comes to the dollar, specifically to the dollar,
Well,
because
you said it best when you said something was financialized. The problem is we've ended up financializing everything to the point where nothing's real.
what
Even when
did
we were talking about,
why would they
well,
do
even
that?
when we
What were
were
they
just talking
thinking?
about silver, like with these promissory notes and all this other
Mhm.
stuff, like they couldn't keep well enough alone and say, Jesus, I wouldn't mind some silver. Hey, I got some silver. Hey, can I buy you? Yeah, cool. Done, buddy.
Yeah,
No, they had to, and then they had to create these silver ETFs and all these other financial instruments that nobody understands, right? And we keep doing this with all of our assets. Real estate back in '08. Now we're going to see, God only knows what's the next bubble to bust. You know, the stock
crypto,
market,
probably crypto.
crypto.
Because I'm reading some news about Bitcoin, man. Like Bitcoin, after this whole news took a nosedive.
Eh,
Um,
but it
well, I
went up
mean,
the last couple days.
so I mean, I've always been a little bit sketched out of cryptocurrencies, because if push comes to shove, I mean, that's probably a currency that could be useful in certain circumstances. But I mean, are you going to use Bitcoin to buy? Uh, it's not really used for financial transactions that way. That's not really kind
Sure
of
it is.
it's transcended. It's transcended that. It's more of something else. It's like
Well,
people invest in it. It's
it's
become a financial instrument. Is How about that? It's become a financial instrument, like
yes, it has.
ecosystem an instrument.
It has, because again, back to the argument, we financialize everything, but it also is a currency. Like El Salvador, perfect example. It's a legal tender down there. It's the only legal tender down there. Everybody pays for everything in Bitcoin,
Oh, I
right?
didn't. I heard that, but I didn't realize that they actually pay for stuff in like that. I didn't realize. That's interesting. Holy crap! Really, it's like that. But I know that Japan also got really heavily affected by the Bitcoin thing. Like they had, because Japan's also been trying to invest heavily in cryptocurrencies to try to get away with. They got to find a way to get out from under the financialized stuff. Because I mean, if all of your eggs are in the American basket, and the Americans are doing some stupid shit, like you have to try to find a way to diversify. Here, let me get rid of it. Let's do the two scoops.
Yeah.
Coming up on.
See, unfortunately, Bradley, that's all that's left in the West now. Like, we don't actually make anything anymore. We don't produce anything anymore. Um, Financial services. That's what we are, you know.
You don't even say
So,
financial, just services, service economy. That's what we've become. We've made our economy a service economy. You get a college degree to freaking be a barista, you know, freaking.
I feel bad for a lot of these kids graduating now, and some of them coming out with these bullshit
Right?
DEI
Oh my
degrees or
gosh.
whatever. You
Yep.
know,
Such bullshit.
political science
I feel
degree,
like
zombie studies, whatever. And yeah, they're
a
screwed.
political science degree is not even the worst of it. I feel like if you're gonna go into politics, you probably an airhead anyway. It's not like it's a real skill, you know.
True.
It's like a
True.
different
All
kind
right.
of you either got it or you don't. Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do
First
it.
one. All right.
Oh, we're gonna do both this, right? Okay,
About
whichever.
not
I don't
having
even
fun.
remember.
I'm done having fun. I'm
Okay.
done having fun. I had so much fun in my 20s. So much fun with so many men.
Dude,
Too
that,
much fun,
that lady
honestly.
looks like
I
a
think
lot
I,
of fun. She's
reached
so
the fun
looks
limit.
so
But
much
I'm
fun.
serious about
Okay.
dating. I'm in my 30s. I have a plan. I have a time frame. I have deadlines.
Right.
I want a baby in a year. I just froze my eggs. I want a ring in 9 months, and I want to be married a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So I'm looking for someone who is at that level.
Well, this
and
is
is willing to meet me at that level.
That
for
level.
sure. This is our first date, so
Yeah, I
feel
know.
like
That's
No,
why I'm being
maybe
crystal clear, because so many men look just like you, have just wasted
like you.
years of my life.
Karen,
and I'm so
stop
sick
it.
of it, and I'm not going to let it happen.
Well, I thought you were trying to have fun, so it's
No,
like
I'm not. I'm not having fun. I'm done having
right.
fun.
You're done with fun now, but before
I had so much fun.
yeah, that's
with
that
not
much
with
is
a
you.
clear.
lot of men.
Yeah, I'm picturing a lot
lot-
of things.
everybody
I
except
don't
for you.
need to do it anymore. And
Yeah.
honestly, you're
I've
really
had
not
so
my
much
type.
fun.
My friend told me to go out with you, and because she seems like you're the type that wants to settle down. So
Okay.
normally I
Well,
don't go for you, but I feel like maybe you're at the same place in your life and my life. Right.
I don't know. Yeah, this might not be a great fit.
Oh my gosh, dude. Karen over here. I can't believe it. So I first of all, she's like,
grew
I
up with
admits
so
that
many-
she's a slut and she slept around a lot. And she's like, I had a lot of fun with a lot of men when I was younger.
Well,
but I'm done. I thought you wanted to have fun. Yeah, before, but not now. No, like, I'm done. No, I'm done having fun. We're not gonna have any fun. Like, I need somebody who's ready to freaking work their ass. Like, I don't know what.
I know.
what
I know a lot of girls like that I grew up with, and you know.
Okay, what's
And
happening
I
here?
heard-
What is this? A midlife crisis? Is they're afraid? Because she said I froze my eggs, so maybe that's what it is. She's like, shit, I had so much fun. I need to get I need to freaking, you know. And she's still like that party girl or something, you know, like she hasn't figured out that, hey, like, I have to also grow up and mature. It's not, you don't just find somebody that's grown up and mature because you think it's time.
Like, if you're in your 30s and you're still going out, or hell, even if you're in your late 20s and you're still going out to the nightclubs, you've seriously screwed something up, in my opinion. Like, if you haven't figured your
Were they at
life
a
out by
nightclub?
then,
Did she say nightclub?
no, but
Okay.
you know, she's the type. Like, she's out at the bars every weekend. I know women like that. I know men like that too. By the way.
I got a different vibe, man. I got the vibe of like she was that type of person, and now she's like, holy shit, I don't have anything else going on in my life. I don't have my career is crap. I don't have any kids. I don't have any.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I know tons of women like this who said this shit in their 30s, and now 15 years later, they're still alone and bitter because, like I said,
because she's in her 30s.
Haven't figured it out.
What were you saying about not?
Get the next one. If you haven't figured shit out by then what are you doing? You know?
No, but hold up. This chick, right? I think that here, what if this is what's happening? She's already in her 30s, and it seems like something kicked her in the butt. Like she got this, like, I need to get married. Now I got a year and a half. I think she's probably like looking at herself in the mirror or something. She's like, holy crap, I'm getting old, right? Whatever it is. Maybe she got her first gray hairs. Something got up her, nose. And so she decides that she needs to do this ASAP, but she's really clumsy. She has no idea how to actually talk to people like a real human being. She's been like this narcissist party girl, crazy person that's been basically like having fun, as she says, all this time, and now that she's like, oh, my time is running out and I need to get it together now, all she knows is what she's learned, right? So she's like trying to play hard to get, maybe she's trying to play like I'm really cool, she's trying to play like I'm down to, like that, but it's all coming across as like you idiot, you do understand how rude it's coming across.
Well,
like you don't know how to.
Like I said, I could name a dozen women just like her that I grew up with, and they're all the same. And basically, it all comes down to, they're out having fun. They, for whatever reason, they can't seem to make a relationship work. And, like I said, if you haven't figured out your shit by then, there's no hope for you. And what tends to happen with these people is they see all their friends around them settling down, having the kids and stuff. And then they're like, well, gee, well, what about me? Right. And like I said, forget 30s, it gets even more desperate when they're in their 40s.
Dude, if
Man,
you haven't managed to do it in your 40s, okay, I feel like, okay,
well,
well,
I'm having
can you have kids in your 40s? I don't even know as a woman. I have no idea.
yes,
Okay.
you can, but
okay, that's probably like the last lifeline.
I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast because a buddy of mine, he's recently divorced, right? And he's up in his 40s, and we both say the same thing. Like the women in their 40s, I know so many women in their 40s right now who are single, and they're either single because they were the fucked out bar slut who we just saw, or they went through divorce or whatever, a relationship that didn't work out, whatever. Bottom line is, once they're up in their 40s, they're like, oh crap, I really need to find someone. For the fucked out bar slut, she needs financial security. For the divorced one, she probably needs either financial security and a partner, who knows,
Or
right?
a partner or
But
a home.
my point is, and all you have to do. So my buddy, he filled out this profile on one of these apps, right? And he said, what do you think? And I read it. And it was like such horse shit. It was like blah, 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 likes fishing, likes this, likes. And I was like, man, what the fuck are you doing? I said, are you looking to get laid? Are you looking for a relationship? He said, oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, like if you want to get somebody's attention, this won't work because she's going to look at that and get bored halfway through and go to sleep. All you need to do. So I rewrote it for him. Okay. It took me all of 30 seconds. And it was basically like, such and such, professional. Uh, I have a stable career, own my own home, recently single, recently divorced, not sure what I'm looking for yet. That was it. That was all I said. Like 3 sentences.
Brilliant. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And
that is exactly what it is.
Now this guy is fucking everything. And and I'm kind of living vicariously through him, I guess.
Because you could be like, oh my gosh, like what the crazy adventures.
What do you think of her? But yeah, no, I've seen it a dozen times, man.
Okay, so I guess it sounds like you probably know better than I that this is definitely just an archetype that she got herself in this corner through her lifestyle, and now she's basically stays a mental child.
Yep. And that's where men differ. Like men will eventually realize, hey, I'm probably never going to find someone, and you know what, I'm kind of cool with that. And men are much better at coping being alone, I think, than women are. But that's just my opinion.
I think that probably is
Britain in 2025 proposing genocide.
Okay. So I'm going to be placing you under arrest, okay? And I'm going to read out the reason for that. The time now is 7:10 in the morning. It's the 2nd of September. So, Patrick, you are under arrest on suspicion of committing the offence of Section 12, subsection 3 of the Terrorism Act 2000. You are alleged to have addressed an online Zoom meeting between the 10th of July 2025 and the 21st of August 2025 for the purpose of encouraging and support and furthering the activities of prescribed organisation Palestine Action.
Yeah, so this dude is getting arrested for having been part of a Zoom meeting. in Britain. So this is where we're at. Just you guys can keep an eye out and see that this is like feeling the pulse of the death of democracy right here. This is what it's like. This is like being choked right here. What Western values?
This is why I always say, like, the whole idea of a war in Europe is never going to happen, because the people there are about to take to the streets against their governments. They're not going to go want to fight a different government, And you see stuff like that, and you don't think the UK is about to go up like a friggin' tinderbox?
I mean, you were
Absolutely.
there. You were there, and you were
Well,
looking at it, and you were saying.
And I was reading an article just today. The UK is the worst performing in terms of standard of living growth in the G7. And I was like, well, first of all, I was like, yeah, well, that makes sense because they have no industry there. But, financial services, which we just talked about, was all a sham. So, yeah, that's where Europe's going, man. And you're not going to have to worry about wars. You'll have to worry about wars maybe with each other. They tend to do that really well.
Yeah.
But
you
I
have to
don't
worry
think
about civil wars and coups and all this
No.
stuff. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you might have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But okay, so I think that is probably our episode 32 of Hell in a Handbasket. Thank you everybody that does tune in for tuning in. I guess see y'all next week. Peace.
All right. See y'all.